Welcome back, everyone. So in this video I want to address a common problem with the T3200SX display housing. You see these little molded in towers? These actually are used to support the mounting lugs. Welcome back. So I've got the T3200SX display housing here. You know, little side note, I actually toyed with the idea of touching up this paint, and I then realized that number one, I'll never get it exact, but number two, I can never replicate this silk screening, so I'm not gonna do that. It would be foolish of me to do that. Welcome back, everyone. So I've got the Toshiba T3200SX display housing here. And there's a couple of small condition issues that we want to address as best as we can. And one of them is, well, the paint. Now, there's really nothing I can do about this paint. Unfortunately, these are not molded in color. And that was actually pretty common in some of the early portables. And I know that IBM was a big one for doing that. But Toshiba was too. And there really isn't a good way to touch this up. So we're going to have to just let it go. The other thing is these standoffs, which are threaded brass mounting lugs that are molded into the plastic shell, in some high stress areas, they have a tendency to crack. And we've got one going on right here and here. These are the two that are under the highest amount of stress because the latch is spring-loaded, or not the latch, but the hinges are spring-loaded. These get torqued whenever you close it. If you look at how it's built, this gets slid over the hinge like this. Like this, okay, and it transmits that force, opening and closing force, into these two mounting points right here, and this one gets the most stress, as you can clearly tell. How do we fix that? Well, we're gonna find out today. So I picked up one of these plastic welding kits from Harbor Freight. It's like 20 bucks, and some welding rod. Which comes in gray, which is pretty convenient. So I've never used one of these kits before. I've tried fixing this on other machines using different methods, but we're not going to use the welding rod that came with the kit because this is flexible. This is not the right plastic. But these are rigid, and I think there might even be ABS. So the idea is you just kind of let this warm up, and all this really is a soldering iron, and we just melt it into the plastic, I guess. Yeah. All right. So I've already made sure that there won't be any clearance issues here. So I'm gonna just give it a try. Not really sure how this is going to work, or if it's going to work, but we're going to try it. I've never used one of these, but I want to kind of beef up that plastic right there, you know, give it a little more body than it originally had. ABS fumes are toxic. I know, right? Who would have known? Who would have thought that ABS plastic fumes would be toxic? But they are. Just keep that in mind. Notify your next of kin. And we're going to just kind of use the little tricorn tip on this thing to kind of build up a little layer of something. A little plastic layer there, a little scab wound. And now let's see if the hinge plate fits, or the mounting plate. No, we're going to have to kind of grind some of that out of the way. But that looks like a pretty decent little repair, though. I think that's going to help us out. I'm going to have to kind of reshape that end of it. The idea is you want to get both the part you're trying to fix and the plastic welding rod at about the same temperature. That's how this is supposed to work. So that's what we're doing here. I'm going to add a little bit of more material. You know, and the nice thing about this kind of a repair is this machine's working days are far, they're over. This thing is in retirement. This machine is not going to go back to the office where it's going to get opened and closed 30, 40 times a day. You know, its working days are over. It's now a museum piece. What do we do with museum pieces? We restore them. That's the idea. That's my goal. But you've got, when you restore something like this, you've got to make it, you know, as good as it was when it was new, or pretty close to it. It's a really tight spot to get into. But I've seen far worse in my day. But yeah, we just want to beef it up a little bit. Where that crack was, if we don't fix that crack, here's what's going to happen. Some random time down in the future, in another dimension, we're going to have a problem where it actually does break. And when it breaks, it's not like we can go buy new parts for this thing. And there's one over here I want to also address. This is a crack that I tried to fuse together early on, but since I have all this stuff here, I'm going to try to do a better job. It's not pretty, but you know, if you're trying to fix an area that is exposed, you can always doctor this up and make it pretty again. There's no rule against doing that. So this just kind of forms a nice thick patch. Kind of reinforce the plastic a little bit. You can kind of shape it with the... I like this iron. This is actually of all the things that Harbor Freight sells, if this works out, and it looks like it will, I think this is a pretty cool product. It seems to do what it says it's supposed to do. And for that, I'm actually pretty satisfied so far. So we'll have to let that cool off. But one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to reach for the bottle of super glue. We've all done it. We've all been tempted to do it. Super glue does nothing for this kind of work. It does not repair these kinds of problems. It just isn't strong enough. It's not going to last. And in fact, if anything, it can even weaken the plastic even further. Now, I have had luck, depending on the circumstance, depending on the design, or depending on how it's built. I have had good luck with epoxy. Specifically, the self-mix epoxy that used to be put out by Loctite, but now it's I can only seem to find the Gorilla Glue variant. But that stuff works really well too. But this will make it a little stronger. It'll make it last a little longer with Big Red. Now let's make sure that the other side fits. two of these hinge mount thingies. I'll make sure that still goes on where it's supposed to. Yeah, it still fits. I like how they both broke in the same exact place. In the same exact way. Everything still fits nicely. We could probably add a little more, but I don't think it's necessary. I think this is going to solve the problem for good. Let's look around for any more. Now, obviously, if you've got one out, one thing just to consider, got back. One thing to consider is if you have one of these that you've taken apart and it's just completely obliterated, like the pieces are all falling off. What I would do in that case is I would assemble it using Loctite Ultra Gel glue, hot glue. Super glue. Thank you. I would use that product only. Reassemble it. Give it a day or so to cure, and then once it's all cured, you can then take your take one of these. And these are the rods. These are sold separately at Harbor Freight. You take these rods right here, and then you kind of beef it all up, reinforce everything. Or if you can, and I've done this before, watch my video. I have an NEC Versa, an NEC Versa laptop that I did. It was a convertible laptop. It has a reversible screen, and I actually cast new parts using Loctite's self-mix epoxy. I actually filled in the cavity after getting everything all put back together. And wouldn't you know it, even to this day, it's still holding up. The problem with using putties and JB Weld, for example, is that it doesn't really bond to the plastic at all. It doesn't bond. It's strong. In fact, I've got a ball of it right here. I just shuffled it aside. But I've got a ball of JB Weld that I tried to do the JB Weld thing. I had to try it. I mean, it was worth it. Didn't cost me anything. Here it is. No, that's not it. Anyway, but I do have a ball of it here somewhere. And it hardened nice and like it was, like it was cast in stone. But it doesn't bond to the plastic at all. Oh, I've got another crack I need to address right here. Where's that little stick I was working with? What did I do with it? Where's my stick of plastic? There it is. So, a little bit goes a long way. So, there's one spot right here that I want to try to get to, but I'm not really sure if I'm going to be able to. So, we're going to give the old college try here. And we're just going to go in there, and we're going to just kind of fill this all in. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work for us. Yeah. Just going to make a mess. Yeah, we won't do that. But, yeah, you can see it's starting to give way at the bridge between the two pieces. You can see that we've lost some strength there. But I don't want to, I don't want to make matters worse. So we'll just kind of live with what we have here. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. I think that'll be just fine. So, Harbor Freight does sell a bigger version of this. It's about $70. This one is $17. And if I get one repair out of this thing, it has paid for itself in spades. So let's go ahead and let me show you what I'm talking about here. So there was a hairline crack right here. So I just added some more material to it. It turns black, it doesn't stay gray, but damn if it isn't strong. Yeah, I think this will be okay. Yep. And the rest of these are in good shape. Surprisingly in good shape. It kind of shows the kind of life this laptop had. This is not a laptop, who am I kidding? It shows the kind of life it had, though. And what I mean by that is it's not beat up. And it's remarkably intact. You know, this is very small potatoes as far as damage goes from what I would usually see in something like this. How this goes back together, why don't we go over that again? So got the hinges already in the same, they have to be in the same position. They can't be, you got to make sure they're in the exact same position on both sides. And you're going to route your wiring through the guides. Okay, we're going to get our control our status panel back into position here. Okay. Make sure that we unplug our plastic soldering tool. That's critical because you don't want to burn your house down over some hot plastic. All right. We're going to attach our ground wire in this order. This is how I do them because I don't want to forget, miss anything. I do not have the screen ready to go in yet. I'm waiting for new capacitors. We're just kind of getting the laptop ready for that rebuilt screen to come in. We're going to put our hinge plates in position. No, actually I did that backwards. We're going to put our this bar. This is a kind of a load supporting bar. They really, you know, they engineered this pretty well considering they didn't have a lot of experience building laptops in 1990 or 1989. But I believe this series came out in 1987 and was built very much the same way. So yeah, this was the ultimate laptop or portable. I keep saying laptop. It's not a laptop. Stop calling it a laptop. Yeah. This was the ultimate portable for its time. Packed the most. See, you couldn't in the late '80s. You could not get a laptop that had any real power behind it. You know, they were kind of wimpy. They had terrible displays, almost universally terrible displays. You know, they just weren't that great. The T3000 series, the T3000 series in general, kind of changed all that. This one keeps cross-threading, and I'm not sure why. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. I think it did earlier. Nope, I got it. Okay. As I was saying, these kind of changed the game for laptop and portable users because you could sacrifice the ultra portability of a laptop and gone with something like this, which, you know, didn't have battery power, but it would definitely allow you to, you know, get the job done. All right. And then we're going to find the 2 screws for the hinge side. There we go. Okay. And then she's assembled as far as I can go without the screen. Oh, I missed one screw. And it's going to be a shorty. And it goes right here. But Toshiba's portable desktop was definitely one of the top machines in its day. Definitely one of the most expensive. But you see, it's all one piece. Now, you don't want to flex this any more than you have to without the display. The display provides the rest of the structural support for the entire assembly. So if you start closing and opening this, I mean, I'm being gentle with it, but if you start opening and closing it without the screen, it will break. So don't do that at all. Just don't do that. No, really, don't do that. Anyway, trying to be funny, okay? Laugh. So, if I'm not mistaken, there are 2 screw holes that are not used. Because I believe this part is used on multiple models or multiple versions. I don't recall if there's anything that goes into either these 2 or these 2. I think these 2 are for the main cover, the display bezel, and the other 2 are not used in this iteration. So, well, I hope that was educational. I meant to try to do some kind of educational entertainment kind of mash up there. Just nod and laugh and smile and leave a friendly comment. Got this unplugged. We don't need this anymore. And I will use this tool again. It comes with wire mesh. We don't need the wire mesh in this particular instance. We do not need the wire mesh. Another thought is if you have a soldering iron and PLA plastic from a 3D printer, you could probably do the same thing. Honest to God. Not PLA, ABS. You want ABS. ABS is stronger, but you could probably achieve a similar result if you just use some, like I said, some ABS plastic filament and a soldering iron. And yeah, it's hazardous, and you don't want to breathe that shit in. But these are the games we play if we love working with old technology like this. That's all for now. Until then. Alright, so in the middle of recapping this board, and I found that doing the through-hole cap replacement, in other words, desoldering the capacitors and pulling them through, is just not happening. I don't have a decent desoldering tool. So I'm going to show you a shortcut method that works. It's not the way I like to do it, but it could save you a lot of time and a lot of hassle. So I had to substitute some caps because I couldn't find the right values that I was looking for. So for example, these are 250 volt 1 microfarad, and I bought 4.7 microfarad 250 volt. These are totally fine. You can go, I think, as much as 100% over the original capacitance. In fact, it might not be a bad idea. Now, this long one right here, that's a 253.3, which is, you know, you just can't go smaller than original. You can go bigger, you just can't go smaller. So, negative terminal this way, and what we're going to do is we're going to just, these are actually larger than the originals. We have to move some of these other passives away. We're going to have to bend the lead stubs away a little bit, like this. But we're not going to take them out. We're not going to do that. And here's another reason why. Some of these new caps, like for example, these 2 sprigs over here, the leads were too thick compared to the originals. So we're just going to make this work best as we can. Just slide these in, and just going to tack on onto what was there. I'm going to go ahead and cut the other one away too. Give myself some more room to work. Okay. Just fold the leads in like that. Yeah, you know, there's cheating and then there's cheating. I'm not gonna worry myself sick. Somebody might open this thing up someday and say, "Oh my God, he didn't remove the original leads." No, I'm not doing that because I don't need to. There is literally no reason to. Why make life harder for yourself? You know what I mean? Okay. So that gives us plenty of room to get in there. We can tack there and tack there, and all will be good. It's really that simple. There we go. There's one. And here's two. I think the antique radio guys do this on tube chassis. I've seen this before on old tube chassis. They just cut part of the lead away, solder the new cap to the original, the parts of the original leads, and that's it. Grab the beer, and move on to something else. And there you go. There's one. Now I gotta squeeze another one in there. But yeah, the leads on some of these capacitors are too thick. Might even be easier if you just pre-tin the leads on the replacement cap. Go ahead and get them all juiced up. This way. There we go. Okay. Let's get that all cleaned up. There we go. We'll go in there with our pliers and we're going to straighten out the leads on the board. Make sure our polarity is correct, negative that way. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah. So these two were opposites. So one of them negative is this way, the other one negative is this way. So in case you caught that. Just like that. And we'll go ahead and pre-tin the leads coming to the board. Some solder on them. That's what I mean by tinning it. Okay. Make sure they don't go the same direction because they're not supposed to. Alright. There's that guy. That's a little too proud. We're gonna, there we go. Like that. And like that. Should be good to go. We got one more, two more. this out of the way. Negative that way. Now see, yeah, these are the 250s, 3.3s. So make sure you mark off where we're going to cut them. Set the component in place. Cut that one there. We're going to cut this one here. We're going to fold this one down so that it's parallel with the lead coming out of the board. This one we're going to bend. We're going to just kind of twist these together. Make sure they don't touch that resistor that's just nearby. Okay. Get in there. Solder. You know, solder makes it a bit nasty. So if you're brand new to the world of recapping, you've got one of these portables and you want to do this job yourself, this is the easiest way to do it. No desoldering tools needed. No, you don't even need flux. You can just use rosin core solder and get the job done. There we go. Yeah, these are all Sprague caps. I thought Sprague was a higher tier, but I guess I could be wrong. I ordered Vishays. I got Spragues. Hope the quality level's about the same. I'm sure it is. Alright. I got one more. This one right here. The original caps don't have a brand name on. Oh wait, yes they do. I think that's Sumitomo. That little triangle symbol, I believe that is a Sumitomo logo. These guys, these don't look bad. I'm looking at the rubber seal end, and they don't look like they're bad. They're not leaking at all. So these are probably still perfectly fine, if I'm honest. But we did have that one bad one, and that's all it takes. That's all it takes. It's one bad one. And that'll ruin your day. That'll ruin your day. If that fails catastrophically like it was going to. Negative pull this way. We'll just sit it in place. See how she fits. Straighten our leads out. You can do this kind of a cap job if you're using axial caps. That is soldering into the existing leads. Obviously, if they're not, what's the word I'm looking for? If they're non-axial, radial, if they're radial caps, you can't do this. But if you're doing this job for this particular component, you are in luck. So we're going to make our cut. We're going to give ourselves a little extra on that end. We'll bend that down, and then we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to give it a little kink, a little fold downward. And what I like to do is kind of manipulate them so that they're together as best I can. And then we'll kind of tack solder them in place. Now this one's not going to be pretty. I think I screwed myself that way. That's okay. I'm used to it. It's not like this thing has a see-through case where, you know, beauty is a concern. Cosmetics are not a concern. no one's going to see what we're doing, nor will they care, as long as it works. Okay. The cap job is officially done. Now I got to reassemble and test. So let's do that on camera. Put my soldering stuff away. Clean off the bench. So all of our caps are new. And that's what we need. Put that stuff away. I gotta get more of that. Put this soldering stand on the, clean that up. There we go. Put that there. Let's get our display. Let's get a clean cloth on the table. And if this works, which I have no reason to suspect it won't, but if it works, then this job will never need to be done again. Given the fact that this laptop is 30 years old, I have a burning suspicion that it's not going to make another 30, regardless of what we do. That's just not going to happen. So I don't have to worry about doing this job again anytime soon. So this goes in one way. Yeah, see, these are Sumitomo cables, and they don't have that logo on them. Okay, well, screw that. I'm going to do this cable in first. I'm going to try to push it in there without damaging anything. Okay. Now luckily the material that these flex circuits are made of is pretty durable. And even after 30, 32, 33 years, it's still very pliable. It's not cracking or anything like that. It's actually quite nice. You know, that could easily become a huge problem as these electronics age. And you know, these are made out of I believe polypropylene, polyurethane, polycarbonate, I don't know. But whatever they're made of, it has held up over time. It hasn't embrittled itself, you know what I mean? That's definitely a plus. Make sure this is in all the way. Good. Very nice. The other side. You don't want to tear it, but you got to push it in too. So it's like a catch-22. In. Come on, baby. Get in there. There we go. There we go. Okay. We're all hooked up. Now I have done display repairs before. I did a cap job on one of my Macintosh portables. Not portables. Hold on a second. My PowerBooks. I think it was my 160 or 165. I've had to do a very similar job, and that was an easy one too. It just needed some new electrolytics. Nothing serious. Nothing surprising. But this seems to be the hold on a second, I cannot get this retainer back in. Just keep it spread. Retainer. What the other one, honey? The other one? There we go. Got the other one in. Usually these aren't very stubborn, but there we go. Push the locking pins back in. Okay, those are fine. I'm gonna have to get some more. I have Kapton tape here somewhere. I will use to tie those cables back position. And then we have this retaining tab for the brightness control wire. Now, I'm going to say this now. There is a very real possibility that we put this back together again, and one of two things happens. Number one, we didn't fix the problem. In which case, I'm fine with that, because, you know, that's actually one of the possible outcomes. We just didn't fix it. The other problem, the other thing that could catch us off guard, is we introduced a new problem. A brand new problem that we didn't have before, such as lines in the display. That's a very real risk. Or one of the capacitors just isn't close enough to the original value and something horrible happens. We get a catastrophic failure. That could happen too. I've done enough replacement cap jobs in my life to know that these things do occur. It's not, you know, it's not uncommon. It happens. And you just have to grow up and live with it. And then you just, what do you have, you know, in my case, I'd have two options. I could start searching for another display, or put the unit up for sale for parts. I think in my case, since I've gone this far with it, I'm just going to keep my eyes open for another screen. I don't think I'll ever find one. But if I didn't do this job, see, this is where the catch-22 part comes in. If I didn't do this job, the capacitor that lived right here was probably just about maybe 1 or 2 hours of use away from blowing itself apart. So this is the burden of the vintage computer enthusiast. You know, it's just the way it is. So let's put this baby back in and see what we got. So I want to point this out. This old modem actually came in the machine when I got it. Based on its age, I would say it's probably been in there since day one. What happened to this modem is the speaker fell out. It was held on by a piece of double-sided foam, which over time dissolved. So I decided I'd remove it and then put it back in later after fixing it. So I did is I reattached the speaker with Loctite construction adhesive. This stuff is great, by the way. I use it for everything now. Very strong, very long lasting. It'll never break again. But we are going to put this back in, even though we're never going to dial up anything again. We are putting the modem back into the machine. Here's our screen. Let's put it in and fire it up. Okay. I made sure to screw this all back into position because it is a structural component. The display on this machine is a structural part. You cannot flex this without the display installed. Here we go. Oh, wow. Okay, it works. Yeah, it works. Is it any brighter? Well, here's what I'll tell you. I'm going to say yes. It looks brighter because I'm in a lit space and I'm having no trouble reading this. But let's see. Let's see what happens. I could go either way. It is bright. So this is probably about where it was. Kind of on the lower side of the yeah. This is definitely brighter than it was. Yep. I really do think so. T-mouse. Oh, there's no mouse hooked up. That's why. It actually kind of looks a little brighter. If I'm honest, it does. Because yeah, it was right about here. It was sort of in the lower side of the spectrum. Maybe, maybe not. It looks better on the camera screen though than it does in person. But we didn't cause any problems. We have extended the life of the display. We've replaced the leaking capacitors. I'd say this is a success. Is it brighter or is it not? It's hard to say, really. It really is. It's hard to say. Hard to say. But it's not hard to see, and that's all I care about. It's definitely very, very bright. Well, let's button this baby up, and that's going to conclude our video. Have a good one. And as far as getting these covers remade, I don't think it's going to happen. I need, like I said, I need a bunch of people, like 10 people, willing to put up $100 a piece to get those made. And they will be cheaper than that, but I need that kind of a commitment. If I can't get 10 people to put up $100 to get them in production, then I can't do it. So, or at least one person with a lot of money. Again, I don't need one. I don't need one. Mine's still good. But there are people who do. And since I've already worked with a company to get some of those made for another industry altogether, I figured I would put that out there in my last video. But, well, I'll give it some time. And if I get enough people who are willing to do this, let me know via comments if you are interested. But what I'm talking about specifically was talked about in my last video, and it's the adhesive overlay that goes, yeah, this thing right here, this little overlay right here. I can get these manufactured at a company that's pretty local to me, and they will be able to remanufacture them exactly as they left the factory initially. They do good work, but if that's not something you guys are interested in, I get it. It's expensive. It's a lot of money. But anyway, let me button this baby right up, and we'll call it a day. Well, we have the Toshiba reassembled and back on the desk here. I just want to say that after some, I think we did a quick power on test when it was on the bench over there, and it worked. I have had some time to kind of let this run for a couple hours. I did a live video that I probably didn't keep up. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it up, but did a live feed where we worked on installing some software. And little quick word to the wise, if you're going to be using disk images from where was I getting them? Not Macintosh Garden, but WinWorld. If you're going to use WinWorld disk images from Microsoft software, you're going to want to use a real floppy drive, not a USB drive. But you're better off using a machine running, say, Windows 98 or XP with a native floppy drive built in, using RawWrite to create those disks. I had the most success doing that, and it was a suggestion that RetroTech Chris had, and it worked pretty well. And so I was able to install Microsoft Word 6.0 for Windows, as well as Excel 5.0. Let's fire it up. So because this machine spent most of its life running DOS software, it's probably never run Windows before. It's pretty clear that the top and bottom 16th or so of the display has never really been used, because the rest of it shows, you know, typical character burn, but there's nothing here and there's nothing here. Kind of interesting. But yeah, the display in this machine is in really good condition. Now, as far as brightness improvements, yes, it is brighter than it was. I know it is definitely brighter than it was. So the recap was definitely a success, and it was well warranted. And even if there was no difference in brightness, it had to be done anyway, because we did have one capacitor that was about ready to blow its top. And it was boiling off electrolyte, and it was just a matter of time before something had gone. Either it had dead shorted, or something was going to go. Something was going to go. So those new caps, they're working pretty well. The display is, I still think it should be brighter, but I'm not really sure how much brighter. I guess it could be just, it is brighter than it was, but I was expecting a slightly more obvious change. I guess I was expecting more. But the display is still, it still looks pretty good, even in light. Put a light in front of it. You wouldn't normally do that anyway, but in a lit room, it's very visible. So let's take a look at some software. Now I had to make a slight change to the system configuration. I noticed it was running a little slow, and I went over to 386 Enhanced, and I found that the 32-bit disk access was turned off. So I went ahead and I fixed that. I'll show you what that looks like over here under virtual memory. So it uses it makes a swap file on the hard drive. Yeah, right here, permanent using 32-bit access. It's a checkbox. It's an option. You can turn it on or off, but I noticed an immediate change in system performance when I turned it on, especially when loading software like Microsoft Word, which Microsoft Word 6.0 is a behemoth in its own right. And even though it's from 1993 or so, it's still a little bit taxing on this old 386. But see, with that 32-bit disk access mode turned off, see, it's doing it now, but a little bit, not really. The first couple of, about a minute or so, you couldn't really use the mouse. It was constantly hammering the drive, and it was almost unusable. I couldn't open the menus, I couldn't do anything. The mouse was completely unresponsive. It's actually doing it right now, but not so much. Not as bad as it was, and for not as long as of a period of time. But yeah, it's a very taxing piece of software on this 386 for sure. Yeah, see, it's way more functional now than it was before. Same thing with Microsoft Excel. But once I turn that on, so what it's trying to do is it's trying to write a lot back to the hard drive after the program opens. And but yeah, it's doing much better. This thing has 7 megabytes of RAM is nothing to laugh at, for something of this generation. 8 megabytes of RAM was pretty much, by 1993-94, if you had 8 megabytes of RAM, you were balling. When this machine was built in 1989, 4 megabytes was, oh my God, what are you, rich? Ooh, here comes the rich guy with his 4 megabytes of RAM. That's why these only had 1 megabyte from the factory, because 1 megabyte was enough for most applications. But you can see that this quickly opened up, and I can use the mouse as I'm supposed to be able to. Yeah, what a difference. What a difference that makes. I should have done a video of it on 16-bit access, or whatever the default is. I assume it's 16-bit access. So now that might be something that was turned off during the Windows install because of the lack of RAM. If it sees that it only has 1 megabyte of RAM, it's probably not going to turn on everything that it could otherwise. But so moving forward, we've got, what have we addressed? We've got the hard drive replaced. We've got the display recapped, which it desperately needed. We've got a new clock battery. We've got the RAM expanded to 7 megabytes, which is again, nothing to sneeze at for a Windows 3.1 system. We've got, all the little repairs made. I did some plastic welding in here. What's left? We put the modem back in. We fixed the speaker that was falling off the modem card. What else can we do to this machine other than just keep loading it with software? Well, pretty much it. We're just going to keep loading it with software. How much space do we have left on our hard drive? Let's take a look. Let's do this in File Manager. There's no floppies in there, right? Certainly, you know, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Certainly, this is one of the coolest machines I own. So we have, out of 415,000K, we have 317K free. That's not a 415 megabyte drive for sure. Oh, I gotta go. I need to get a quote for some tree removal, so I gotta go see somebody. Sorry about that. I had called a tree service to come by to get me some pricing on tree trimming and removal, and I was actually quite impressed with how low the quote came in, so I'm going to have him do the work. Good guy. He's done a few trees in our neighborhood, and he's pretty well known. So anyway, that's not what you came here for. So anyway, we also installed SimCity Classic for Windows. I thought I had the DOS version, but this is actually the Windows version, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, my goal was to really, what was the purpose of this whole project? Well, it was to kind of recreate a machine that I had when I was a kid, as close as I could, and I've succeeded in that goal. It is pretty much recreated exactly as I remember it, with a few additions. I have more software now than I did back in the day. That's always nice. But not only that, but I wanted to, I just wanted to re-experience these portables with the plasma displays. They're very cool machines. Definitely not for the faint of heart, not for your entry-level collector machine. But if you're an entry-level collector and you're just dipping your toes in the hobby and you happen across one of these, it is a lot of fun learning how to resurrect vintage technology, because you get a little bit of everything. You have to isolate and repair any hardware issues that these are going to have, and they're going to have them. Hard drives guaranteed to not work, so you've got to figure out how to get around that. A CF card modification is definitely a good idea for something like this. That is replacing the hard drive with a CF card. You know, there's just a lot of things that you can experience and learn when you acquire one of these, and you're just learning to tinker with these old machines. Capacitor replacement is definitely a must, at least for the display. Even the power supply, I'm told they're notorious for power supply cap issues, but I decided not to go that deep into it. I just wanted to replace what I know is bad, and that's it. I don't want to go nuts. Acquiring parts for this is impossible. That's why I don't recommend these for budding collectors. Unless you get one that's already pristine and running, I wouldn't recommend running out and buying a broken one. And the reason is, there are certain parts that are just, you know, if a certain part is bad, there is no fixing it. You know, the display is one such example. If you've got a bad display, you know, you're pretty much shit out of luck, because you're never going to find another display. If your hard drive is bad, and it will be, there are ways to fix that. But if your screen is bad, you know, it's a parts machine at that point, and you're going to pay a lot more for a display than you think, if you can find one. This one had one of those. This had a component that could have been fatal. It had a broken hinge, and here's the broken hinge. Now this hinge still works. It does what it's supposed to do, but it does not have the spring tension anymore that it's supposed to have when the display is partway closed, like this. It no longer has that ability, nor can it turn the display off when the display is at the at the quarter open position. And if it can't turn the display off, then it's no longer what they call a serviceable item. You know, it's this collar is broken, and there is no fixing this. But luckily, 80s Compact PC YouTuber was able to send me a replacement hinge for just 10 bucks, which was very, very generous of him, actually. Very generous, and I can't thank him enough. But stuff like that is what can sink one of these projects pretty quickly. You know, I don't think these are known for having faulty logic boards. And what's also nice about them is that the backup battery, the clock battery, is installed in such a way that it can't leak and ruin anything. Mine had the original battery in it, and it had not begun leaking. It just wasn't leaking. It had gone bad, but it wasn't leaking. And further, it's mounted in a remote battery holder, so it's not soldered to the board. It's an easy replacement. But the things that you're going to find that are defective on this model machine, or anything in this series, case damage, again, that can be pretty fatal. But we've just learned that we can now solder plastic together. Well, plastic weld, as they call it. You got to watch out for that. So if you're looking to buy one of these, buy it from a collector. That's what I would say. I would say find a collector who has one, who's willing to downsize their collection. One that's been gone through, one that's been vetted, and, you know, here's another example. So you will never find one of these with this door intact. This little cover right here, these are usually the first thing to go. What's surprising is that not only do I have the door, but the clip isn't broken yet. You know, these little side doors, like the one I had as a kid was missing the side door. I never thought it existed. I just didn't even know it had one. And well, that's what it would have looked like. So in terms of collectability, yes, these are highly collectible machines. They are worth a lot of money in working condition. Those are all very true statements. But you just have to be very careful with what you buy and how much you pay. I would say that if I were to put this sucker on eBay today and advertise it in the community, I could probably get a good chunk for it. I would estimate that I could probably get between $500 to $800 for this thing, depending on who's looking. That may be a little bit high, but maybe not that much. I would say anywhere above $500 though. I think 500 and up is what I would expect. Because it is one that has been vetted. It has been completely gone through. You know, there's really nothing else to do to it other than enjoyment. But the intention in this project was not to turn it around and make money on it. That was not the goal, and that's not what's going to happen here. I'm going to be keeping this machine in my collection permanently. And it took me 20 some odd years to find one, and I'm not gonna do this again. So moving on to my other machines, you know, I still have machines that I'm looking at maybe getting rid of. For example, I've got a Macintosh SE right there that I got running again. I might look to get rid of that soon. I don't need it, you know. I don't need it. It's there. Actually, it does need some work. I need to do some memory work on that one, and yeah, not looking forward to that. It has a memory module that's going bad, and every once in a while it just won't boot up. And you have to take the memory out, shift it around a bit. It's not a cap issue; it's a memory issue. But you know, what are you gonna do? So, without further ado, I think I'm gonna move on to something else. And we'll upload this video. Thank you for watching. Y'all have a great day. Let's shut her down. I've got the Razdaz DOS-based screensaver. I think if I just type in Razdaz at the command prompt, it'll automatically launch the screensaver. Look at that. There it goes. But notice this before we close out the video. Once again, it doesn't, so anything that runs in DOS uses a video mode that does not take full advantage of the entire screen. I don't know what that resolution is. I'm going to have to look up what the native resolution is for this and what it supports. But you can see that it's not running in full screen. And that's why we have those bars, top and bottom, that are not exactly, you know, burned up. You know, those pixels are in better shape than the rest of the screen. That's why. Anyway, see, that's a better, you can see it even better here. I don't know what resolution DOS applications are running in natively on this machine. I'm going to have to figure that out. But whatever it is, it's not taking the full screen. It's not utilizing the full screen. So, yeah, what are you going to do, right? Well, it's been fun. Oh, did I mention I have the bag for this? And I washed it. Let's talk about that too for a sec. Here's the original case. Now, this was really dirty when I got it. Like, really, really dirty. And I was able to wash this in my laundry sink with laundry detergent and a little bit of OxyClean. And we washed it inside and out. And then I hung it over a drying rack for about a week. And now it's nice and clean. But this is what the T3200SX carrying case looks like. I think there's a few different versions of this case. But this one's in really good shape. It's got all the buttons and everything's still here. There's nothing missing, nothing broken. It's good condition overall. But that's what it's going to be stored in once I clean this area up a little bit. And without further ado, you guys enjoy.